In tonight's show, I'd like to talk about a very sad situation in American society. Our children are being set up and led into a life of debt. Just as the cigarette companies set up and promote the youth and the masses to a life of death from smoking, there are financial companies that set up, lure, and suck in our youth to a life of paying interest and death as a debtor. How does this happen? When does it start? Well, the financial companies, they start out the youth in high school. As you graduate high school, they give you a $500 credit line. They also give you a good credit score to show that you're a good credit risk, because you don't have any credit, so they start you off with good credit. It's like a dope dealer at a party, gives a little snort, a little sniff or something for gratis to get you going, and then, they work you from there. So after they get you locked in to this little $500 credit company, they advertise, send you products, deals, trips to take, things to do with your money. The next thing you know is you have another credit company that sends you another credit card, because now you're a good credit risk, because you already have credit with this other company that started you off, which is deployed to get you going, get involved into a life of credit. As you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, probably at that time they've extended maybe $20,000, $30,000 worth of credit to you, to your child, to the youth of America. And of course, with all these advertisements, buy this, buy that, it's easy, put it on your MasterCard, put it on your Visa. These are kids, first time through it. They go ahead and do it and play this game. Now they owe this money. What begins to happen is now they're paying interest on this product they bought from 18 to 21, 22 years old. They're about $30,000 in debt, 21, 22, 23 years old. They begin to get more credit and start making interest payments with checks that these other credit companies give them. And now they're creating more debt to pay interest on debt that they already had, which means more interest. And before you know it, you're 23 years old, the youth are 23 years old, 24 years old, 25, 28. They're making a half-decent living, they're making a buck, they got a good job, and they owe $30,000, $40,000 on credit cards. At this point, the financial companies that started them off in high school have them by the good yonis, and now have a great number one candidate working for them, paying them interest, passive income on money that they had afforded, that they made a percent off the top when they spent the money. The credit card companies they rake off the top to begin with, that they make the retailer pay. Well, then the fun begins. Now they have you locked in. You owe $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. You're 23, 25. You got a half-decent job, and now the introductory wonderful rate they gave you at 16 or 17% is now over. So you're going to go into a 20%, 21% interest rate category. So they give you that for about 6 months, a year or so. They wean you up, just like a Shylock. They work you up. Then you're used to paying 21, 20%, 22%, 20%, 19%. You think you're getting away with murder. So because you used all your credit up, you have no available credit left they now notify the credit companies that you have no credit left, so they do lower your credit score. Now, instead of having a 700 credit score, you got a 500 credit score. You haven't made a late payment or anything. You paid every payment on time. You're working for the man. You do the thing. You go there. You write the checks. You send them in. You're on time and everything. But because your credit score is now lower, because you've used all your credit up, that gives them the right to, in their book anyway, gives them the right to now jack your interest rate up to 24%, or as they like to say, 23.99. Keep it under gouging. You know, they like to keep it off the street. You know, just keep it. They don't want to get in competition with the real Shylocks who charge 2% a week. So, God forbid, after they have you at 24% low credit score and you miss a payment by one day you might have one of your credit cards, a $20, $40 credit payment. You miss that for one day, they charge you a late charge, not on what you owe, not on what the payment is, but just a nice flat fee that they like $29. They'd like to charge you on that $20 payment that you're one day late on. Well, I hate to tell you what the interest rate on $29 being late on $20 for one day is. I mean, I'll get my Hewlett Packard, my Funk and Wagnall, and the whole book, but I'll just take off the top of my head, it's more than 1,000% interest. So now they get you 23, 24, you're paying 1,000% interest on, God forbid, you're one day late. That'll, of course, ruin your credit, make it lower so no one else will give you credit so you can get out of these guys. You see, now they got you in. They're going to keep you in with them. So they lower your credit, they make you look bad, so no one else is going to give you credit, and you can't get out of your deal with them because they've been sucking you in for the last 5 years. So now, as I like to say, the financial companies have the youth at full tilt. Got you all locked in, lowered your credit score, you got nowhere to go, they're charging you 24% interest, they're charging you 1,000% interest on late payments, they're charging you $50 if your late payment, interest payment went over your credit limit, they're throwing another $50 just to, you know, kind of give you a little kick, make sure you're ready to play this game with them so you'll know what you're in for. You know, you're 23, 24 years old, they got you scared. If you don't make the payment, they call you the next day, they dun you, they tell you how they're going to ruin you on top of it. So before you know it, you're paying 10, 20, 30, 50% of your net income after taxes, what you got after, you know, to pay these financial companies interest on the principal that you still owe them, because they structure the payments so you don't pay any principal, and if you do, it's so minuscule it doesn't count, you see. So now you still owe everything that you bought when you're 21 years old. You're jacked up through the roof with interest rates. All those items that you bought you probably don't even have anymore. They're clothes that wore out, they're meals that you passed on, they're cars that you don't have anymore, they're just disposable items, you know, tires and things that wear out and things that turn into nothing, okay? But you still owe them all the principal of that money because they only will let you pay interest first, unless you're smart enough to figure the game out and amortize your loan. They also have you to the point where you have no more available credit relative to your income and relative to what they lent you. They lowered your credit rating, so you get higher interest rates in the future, have nowhere to go, and they basically begin to deal with you with no respect. Since you used up your credit with them and now are locked in to super high rates, basically you're their dog with nowhere to go. Now, in the Wall Street Journal a few days ago, they had an article about collections from credit card companies. MasterCard and Visa, with a big bank, with a big city was the start of their name, started with city, have gunnifs, you know, strong-arm men going to collect from the Indians who are late with their payments and putting these people up against the wall. All right? That's in India. Well, they're doing the same thing here. They're just scaring our youth into it with hitting them on the phone with the penalties, with the late charge, with the nowhere to go. They're doing the same thing. You had more room with a Shylock being a weekend late and paying money than you're going to be with the MasterCard or Visa for 1 minute late, $29, 1,000% interest. All right? That's for openers. This is what the youth of America is getting today from our society. This is what the stock market has been built up and all these financial companies are doing. They're hosing, raping, and taking our children down to working for them. All right? Working for the man for the rest of their lives. 16 tons of number 9 coal. Another day older and deeper in debt. I owe my soul to the company store. That's for real. That's not a song make-believe. You know, that was a bad past in our history. The coal miners, what they went through, what they had to work for the companies, they worked 20, 30 hours a day. The only difference today is instead of our people, our youth and people, good people working for the coal mine, they're working for McDonald's or they're working for somebody else and they're making a regular living and trying to make ends meet. And they made a mistake when they were 18 years old and they're going to pay the rest of their life for it. History is repeating itself. And now we have a whole country full of coal miners from 18 on up working their butts off to pay MasterCard and Visa interest. Instead of digging coal, they're just doing another job. It's as simple as that. But they're working for the man. That's the game they played. The company store is all these department stores. They just got another way to rework the same deal. The question now becomes, how can we stop ourselves in our youth from falling into this financial trap for life? You know, not a little mistake, you're just locked in for a minute. Locked in for life. Now, most of us, unfortunately, are already in the trap. I'm trying to help the youth not to get in the trap. So we, as us sucked in as we are, can tell our kids not to go for it. And to start changing some laws and making some difference so this ridiculous thing doesn't keep going on. We're going into the new millennium. Well, let's get off the hook in the new millennium. That's the deal. Let's get ourselves off the hook. Let's get these kids off the hook. Okay? I think there's basically 4 ways that anybody's going to get off the hook. All right? Now, I'll go over them one at a time. The first one is if you are lucky enough or smart enough to own real estate. Because if you do own real estate and you have equity, which most people today that own real estate have some equity in a real estate, have an opportunity to a refinance of a mortgage, to get a second trust deed, not to get rid of debt, but basically to trade it in. You're going to trade in your 24% interest debt onto debt that's, if you're a good guy, 7%. If you're a criminal, 14% interest. All right? If you shot people, you get 14% interest on a home mortgage, and you'll be bad, D-pay, the worst character around. All right? And also, that interest is tax deductible. The interest rates in your credit cards, you can't even take it off against your income, your taxes, like you can on the state. But like I said, you're either lucky or smart that you end up with a piece of real estate, and it has some equity. And if that is the case, you can call me Lipman. I'm a mortgage loan broker. My name is right under here somewhere, and my phone number. Give me a call, and I can help you get out of this debt situation through the equity in your real estate. Now, the second way, and if you own real, you can do this as well, is to plan to increase your payments so you'll amortize or pay off your debt over, let's say, a 3 to 5 year period. You have spending, you can't go back to well, and you have to get yourself out of this. You have to get a second job, you have to work extra hours, you have to do whatever you have to do to get debt and make yourself a 3 or a 5 year plan. If you can figure it out, You can call me, give me the numbers, I'll tell you what to do. Because I'll put it in my computer, my Funkin' Wag, Hewlett Packard, I'll put in 24% interest with what you owe over for 5 years. You're probably going to have to work 2 jobs, and one of those jobs is just going to have to go to pay this debt off. And that's the second way out. And you have to work double time for the mistakes that you made when you're 18, 19, and you'll have to work from your 25 to your 30, or 23 to 28, or 20, whatever the numbers are that makes you in 3 to 5 years within reasonable working capacity of a human being. You know what I mean? Now, half the time you're still working for the man, and the other half the time you'll be paying principal and you'll be working for yourself. And when you're through with it, if you got 2 jobs and you can take it, you'll make a lot of money, you'll put money in the bank, you'll save money, you'll be a regular top-class citizen without owing any debt to these financial companies. Now, the third way that I see it is you may have to, and no one likes to do it, I don't like to do it, but I've done it, and if it's, you got to do it, you got to do it, is you have to sell assets to pay off debts. All right? You have to sell property, you have to sell collections, you have to sell copyrights, you have to sell anything of value that you have, in my book anyway, to pay off this debt. It really, you don't like to do it, but at the interest rate you get charged, whatever your asset that you're selling, it'll be half the money that it's going to cost you to continue with this debt, basically. You'll pay twice, 3 times your assets anyway. So if you paid it off one time, those other 2 times you could go back and buy your assets back, or buy some other assets that are similar. And then put the rest of the money in the bank and have yourself, a regular half-decent situation, like I say. Now, the fourth situation is when you have some two, that owes all this money, work a regular job or working 2 jobs, but because the job is not paying that well and they're working 2 jobs and they made mistakes in the past, and they're working for the man, and the man is driving them crazy, and they're calling them and hucking them, and they're paying $1,000 interest late charge, and they're running for the bank and getting money orders, and running to Western Union and paying them $20 to get the payment in for $20 with a $29 late charge to make $80 to pay nothing on what you owe. That's just that week, that day. You're locked in so bad, you got headaches, they're chasing you, you can't live, your wife is ready to divorce you, or your husband's ready to divorce you, or you're both in it together and you can't stand each other anymore, and it's all about money, and your life is getting ruined, and you're in the pits, the doldrums, you're gone. Well, they have a law. It's called a bankruptcy law. And when you're there, that's when, honorably, with honor, you can go and file and bankrupt yourself to give yourself a fresh new start. Because you made a mistake, or mistakes when you're 18, 19, you weren't smart enough, you weren't educated, no one told you, these companies sucked you in, they took you down the road, you're gone, you're 23 years old, you can't come out of it, you're miserable, you ain't got a nickel, and they're going to continue to ruin you all through your life if you pay them in dribs and drabs. Then you got to say, hey guys, nice game, I played, I lost, you won, but I go BK, and I'll see you later. Go to the court, set it up, it'll take you about 6 months, it's honorable, tell the truth, don't hide any assets, don't, finagle with the bagel, do what's righteous, and hey, in 6 months, you're a new man, new woman, you got a fresh start, you're clean, you go out and give it a shot. You don't have to lose your job, you can keep your jobs. If you're working 2 jobs, start saving some money. Anything you want to buy, pay for cash. You don't even need a credit card. You got a driver's license. You know what I mean? Get a bank card and get a credit card that you put $300 in and forget the whole game. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. You can't live like that. You'll just end up going back in again. And some people do that, and you can beat every 7 years. If you weaken and you failed again, they don't even have the 3 strikes law in debt. So every 7 years, the worst term you get, you don't get 7 years to life. You get 7 years, and then you can do it again. It happens again. And that's the law. I didn't write it. You didn't write it. This is from history. The other way that I can see maybe that we can change the law to prevent this from happening after you took one of those 4 ways to get out of it, then for the rest of us that have got out of it, or trying to get out of it, how can we prevent our children from getting into it? The only way I can see right now, but maybe later I'll see some more, is to change some laws so consumer debt must be amortized over a maximum of a certain period of time, let's say 5 years. So your payments have to reflect the amortization. They can't just charge you interest and keep you owing the principal forever. So then they're charging you, really it should be that you pay your principal off first and you can't pay interest on interest. So that way you could work it out. It's just a different way to calculate it, but you could make it so you're only paying interest on the principal that you owe, and the principal has to be paid off within a certain period of time, and it's illegal for these companies to charge you interest on interest. It's a one-time deal. They got that interest, they charged you for it, that's all they get. They're not going to get interest on it, they're not going to get 1,000% late payment on it. We're going to change all that. It's going to be, whatever the interest rate is, it'll be on your late payment as well. It'll be reasonable, it won't be shylocky or, gouging and ruining somebody with a situation. So we're going to abolish those 1,000% interest rates. And I'm telling you, I didn't even figure it out yet. I don't have to, I know in my head. $20 payment, late for 1 day, cost you $29. Now, $29 for 1 day times 365. $3, that's 365 days, all right? For 1 day, they charge you $29. The annual interest rate on $29 for 1 day over a year on $20, you figure it out. But I'm telling you, it's more than 1,000%, a lot more. So we also have to educate our children about the meaning and impact of interest and borrowing money and what it means and what amortization is and how to get out of it and what those ratios mean on your basic well-being as a person and how those interest payments can affect your whole life. It's like a bad drug. It's worse than heroin, okay? And heroin's the worst, all right? But someone going through their whole life, paying interest, never having a nickel, never having anything, paying for the man, and get up and they'll spit you out, you meant nothing. You did it, you worked for them. So I hope I made my point, because that's the name of the show. That's the point. And the point of tonight's show was exorbitant interest rates, practices, and ways to help our youth stay out of this predicament. I'd like to thank you very much for your time. I hope I helped somebody here, and if I can help you on a business sense or just a personal sense to give you calculate some numbers for you. If you have real estate, I can do your real estate and get you out of your pickle. If you don't, I'll help you anyway. Just at least I can amortize the numbers for you and tell you what you have to do, whatever it is, and show you how to do it. And my name is Danny Lipman. Thank you again. My phone number is right under here, and call me anytime. Thank you very much, and good evening.